All right, the same administration that held Police Week just froze the benefits going to the families of fallen officers. The same Justice Department that says China, Iran, and Russia are threats to our elections just fired every expert we built to stop them. And when Senator Gillibrand sat across from the acting attorney general and asked point blank why, he couldn't give her a straight answer on a single one. Not on election security, not on gun data, not on anti-drug task forces, not on police funding. What you're about to see isn't a policy disagreement. It's an accountability hearing where accountability never showed up.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General, Acting Attorney General, for being here.
Thank you.
I've listened to your testimony today, and I have a concern about your focus. New York City was the site of the last major terrorist attack against the United States at 9/11. We benefit greatly from what you've mentioned, this whole of government approach,
Yes.
where we integrate CIA, NSA, DOD, FBI, DOJ, all integrated seamlessly, NYPD, to keep our city safe. It's one of the biggest cities in the country. It's one of the most dynamic cities in the country, and our public safety is paramount. But I've looked at your record, and I am deeply concerned that you are not using this whole of government approach, because I see you slashing programs left and right that we know work for all sorts of things, from drugs to gun trafficking to community policing to cops program, slashing so many programs that I know work. So I want to take you through them and hear from you why your focus isn't where New York City and the state and the country need you to be, which is our public safety. So first of all, do you think that China, Iran, Russia want to do us harm and would undermine our elections?
Yes.
Why did you delete the whole department then that is supposed to protect against the undermining of our elections?
We spend a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of man hours, a ton of resources on that very issue.
Yeah, but you canceled the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force.
That's a task force. That's literally just a group.
It was
you know what a task force is. That's not getting rid of anything.
I was here in 2016. I know what happened. And after that, we did a whole of government approach.
Yes.
We put experts in at CISA. We put experts in at the FBI, and we put experts in at the Department of Defense. Together, whole of government approach, they went state by state by state to make sure that our electoral infrastructure was sound. However, your department and this administration has aggressively fired all the people that were put in charge of this. So they were the people at the FBI in charge of it. So why have you dismissed those operations?
Where that failed, there were no state and local involved. It was all just a bunch of federal people, mostly out of Washington, D.C., okay? And the FBI agents were all Washington, D.C. The way they were agents, not around the country where we needed them. So the way that we're addressing it by closing down that task force is by having HSTF set up in every single, including in New York City. Every single agency, every single state now has a HSTF, and that is one of their main focuses. And it does work with state and local.
I want a complete report on this, because I don't have confidence that you are doing what needs to be done. Because if all the 300, 400 expert people that were in our previous administrations, multiple administrations, Democrat and Republican administrations, if none of them are good, and you're starting over from scratch, that doesn't sound like the recipe for success.
I didn't say none of them were good. That's not what I said.
Well, they've all been dismissed, and they've all been fired in all three areas.
That's not true. They have not all been dismissed.
We fired the people from DOD, we fired the people from CISA, we fired the people at the FBI. They were all dismissed.
They were not all dismissed. Many of them are still here.
Ask for a briefing, look into it, and give a report to this committee, because I'm telling you, if you agree that our adversaries do not have our goodness in mind, they don't have our protected elections in mind.
Yes.
I need laser-like focus on solving this
You're getting
problem.
laser-like focus.
All right, I'd like a report on that. Second issue, gun trafficking. We have been working so hard as a federal government to stop the flow of illicit guns into our communities, where someone can sell guns out of the backs of their trucks from some criminal gun dealer who's try and get these guns into the hands of criminals. And we're supposed to get data every year so we can show that our gun trafficking laws are working. These new enhanced laws where police officers can now go cross state lines to do their investigation. Why are you not giving me the data about gun trafficking? I need to know if it's working. I need to know if these cases are being prosecuted. And I can't even get data out of your department.
Well, the cases are being prosecuted. We did.
Will you give me the data so I can assess it?
I don't know what data you're talking about.
The number of number of weapons that have been seized, the number of cases that are being prosecuted. We keep track of how many weapons have been seized that are trafficked. And I'm waiting from your department over a year to get that data.
To the extent there's data that we're
Will
required
you send it?
no,
Next point.
Okay.
I got like 5 points. I only get 5 minutes. Next point. Community violence intervention grants. You are slashing these community violence intervention grants. They work. We know they work. One of them was to New York for 4.2 million. Slashed. It prevents youth violence. These are programs that are working. Did you analyze whether this program was working before you slashed the funding?
Yes, there's still a ton of funding for those programs.
Not the ones in New York. You just deleted them. Delete. It's shocking.
It wasn't delete. That
okay, well, 4.2 was deleted for the Local Initiative Support Corporation that funds.
It's not a deletion. It's just that we're not seeking funding for it through this exact process.
No, I'm seeking funding for it. I've asked for the money, and we've gotten grants for this, and you've just suspended this grant program.
I'm happy to work with you to make sure we're spending the grant money in the right way.
I don't have any more time, but there's a community-oriented policing grant cuts as well, the COPS funds. This is something our police officers in our community policing development micro grants, they benefit from it. De-escalation training grants, programs that work. Our police officers need it. And then drugs. We have an anti-heroin and methamphetamine task force, and we need to be funded. And it's not being funded. So
It is being funded. Absolutely. There's a different amount of funding, but it is being funded.
No. You've eliminated funding for both the anti-heroin, anti-methamphetamine task force. So I'm sorry. Which is the task force that stops the trafficking of heroin, fentanyl, and the very long word I can't pronounce.
I mean, Senator, there's nothing more important to President Trump and to this Department of Justice than combating the illegal flow of narcotics. So to the extent that there is a particular funding revenue stream that is not being funded the same way, I commit to you that it is of the highest priority to combat drug trafficking.
Last is the Public Safety Officer Benefit Program. You say, we just had Police Week, you say you stand with law enforcement. When you do not support this program and when these funds are not getting back to the loved ones who have lost their police officer loved one, it is not right. I need you to focus on this. I need you to get this right.
We're committed. Thank you, Senator.
Let me tell you what actually happened in that hearing room, because if you walked away thinking this was just a fight about budget numbers, you missed the whole thing. Senator Gillibrand came in with 5 separate issues on the table: election security, gun trafficking data, community violence grants, anti-drug task forces, and death benefits for the families of officers killed in the line of duty. 5 different programs, 5 different agencies, 5 completely different functions. And on every single one of them, the acting attorney general either denied the cuts, reframed them as something else, or ran the clock out until her time expired. That's not a series of misunderstandings. That's a method. So let's start where I think this story actually begins, because the election security piece is the one most likely to get scrolled past, and it's the one that should keep you up at night. After 2016, the United States didn't just shrug and move on. We spent years building a real-time detection network, CIA, NSA, DHS, the FBI, state election officials, all coordinated, all communicating, specifically designed to catch foreign interference before it becomes a crisis. That's what the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was. Not a bureaucratic acronym. The institutional memory of the worst foreign attack on American democracy in modern history. Blanche's answer was that it was too Washington-centric, that local field offices can handle it now. And here's what that answer is actually saying. We fired the people who knew the playbooks, who tracked the specific actors, who understood exactly how these foreign networks operate, and replaced them with field offices that have never done this work before. You don't rebuild that expertise overnight. Maybe you don't rebuild it at all before the next election. Gillibrand asked him a simple question. Did you analyze whether this was working before you shut it down? The answer she got was, we're doing it differently now. That's not an answer. That's a pivot designed to sound like one. Now the gun trafficking data issue is where I want you to pay close attention, because this one exposes something people rarely talk about. Congress passes laws. Those laws cost money and generate data. The data tells us whether the law is doing what we paid for it to do. If the DOJ withholds that data from the people who pass the law, the entire oversight mechanism breaks. Gillibrand told Blanche she's been waiting over a year for basic statistics, weapons seized, cases prosecuted, information the DOJ is supposed to produce as a matter of routine. When the Attorney General sits before the Senate and says he doesn't know exactly what data she's referring to, there are only two explanations. Either the department genuinely doesn't know what it's tracking, which is a catastrophic management failure, or they know exactly what she wants and have decided not to provide it. I'll let you decide which one is more likely, but neither answer is acceptable from the nation's top law enforcement officer. Then there's the community violence intervention grants, and this is where the contradiction becomes almost impossible to explain away. These programs work. That's not a partisan claim. It's what decades of city-level data actually show. Gillibrand pointed to a specific $4.2 million grant for New York. Gone. Blanche said there's still a ton of funding for these programs, but a ton of funding somewhere else doesn't help the specific community that just lost its program. And when she asked whether anyone had evaluated the program's effectiveness before pulling the grant, he said he's happy to work with her on it. That phrase, happy to work with you, is the political equivalent of a shrug in a suit. It means, I have no answer, but I'd like this moment to be over. Here's the structural reality that ties all of this together, and I need you to sit with this for a second. When you eliminate election security expertise, you reduce the country's ability to detect foreign manipulation before it's too late. When you withhold gun trafficking data, you make it impossible to evaluate whether enforcement is actually working. When you defund anti-drug task forces, and then tell Congress that combating drug trafficking is the administration's highest priority, you've created a gap between what you say and what you fund. Blanche actually said that. Highest priority. With a straight face. In the same hearing where Gillibrand was asking why the anti-heroin and methamphetamine task force funding had been eliminated, priorities aren't what you say in a Senate hearing. They're what survives the budget process. And then there's the last thing Gillibrand raised, and I think it's the most clarifying detail in the entire hearing. The Public Safety Officer Benefit Program. Death benefits. Money that goes to the spouses, the children, the parents of officers killed in the line of duty. The administration just finished Police Week. Ceremonies, speeches about sacrifice and service and standing with law enforcement. And then Senator Gillibrand had to explain to the acting Attorney General that those families are not getting the money they were promised. Blanche said they're committed to it, but committed is not the same as paid, and the families waiting for those checks know the difference. What this hearing actually showed us goes well beyond any single program or grant. Congressional oversight exists for one reason: to verify that the executive branch is doing what it said it would do with the money it was given to do it. When an attorney general can sit before the Senate, deny cuts that happened, reframe eliminations as reallocations, and walk out without a single concrete obligation, the oversight mechanism isn't bending, it's failing. And the people who pay for that failure aren't in that hearing room. They're in the neighborhoods where the violence programs used to run, in the states where election security experts used to work, in the homes where a law enforcement family is still waiting for a benefit check. Gillibrand walked out of that 5-minute window without a single concrete commitment on any of her 5 issues. The data is still being withheld. The grants are still cut. The families are still waiting. This is what the erosion of public safety infrastructure looks like from the inside, and it doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up as a reallocation, a restructuring, a refocus. It speaks the language of efficiency while quietly dismantling the systems that keep people safe. So the next time someone tells you this is just politics, remember what you watched today. Because democracy doesn't just need elections to survive. It needs the unglamorous, underfunded, unsexy infrastructure that runs between them. And right now, that infrastructure is being asked a lot of questions it isn't answering.